indicate how much time is remaining. A bell will sound when you have 30 seconds remaining. Speakers registered on consent agenda items will be taken following announcements of any items being pulled or withdrawn from the consent agenda. Speakers registered for non-consent items will be taken together prior to those items being acted upon. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items within those blocks that they registered to speak. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to your Fort Worth City Council meeting. I'll call us to order.
Will Pastor T.J. Patterson? Invocation will be given by Pastor T.J. Patterson today. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. God of grace, God of mercy, God of love, we thank you. Before we ask you for anything, Lord, we thank you for everything. Thank you for air we breathe, oh God, and for a time in this country, oh God, as we move forward in you. Forgive us of our sins, oh God, we've committed against you. During this season, God, we're getting ready to celebrate your son's birth. Help us to remember, oh God, that you gave your very best by giving your son. We pray your direction, oh God, in this council meeting on today. Give this council, God, the wisdom of Solomon, oh God, and the boldness of David to make right choices, oh God, to lead your people in this season. Thank you in advance for what you will do. We'll be careful to give you the glory, the honor, and the praise, oh God, as we celebrate, oh God, the King, Jesus Christ. In Jesus' name we pray and thank you in advance for what you will do. Amen.
Our first item of business will be special presentations, with the first one being a presentation of the Salvation Army Red Kettle campaign kickoff.
And I have the honor of presenting today. Thank you very much for being here. I'm going to come down and join you if that's okay. If you want to kick us off, that'd be great.
Good morning. Good to see everyone today. What a great time to be in Fort Worth. TCU continues to win. Amen. Amen. Well, I'm Major Paul McFarland. I'm the area commander of the Salvation Army of North Texas, and we thank everyone for joining us and allowing us to be a part of the council meeting today as we kick off our Red Kettle effort for 2022. Now, a little history on the Salvation Army Red Kettle. It really began in 1891 in San Francisco, and it quickly spread around the world and is now the longest running campaign, fundraising campaign in the world. It contributes to a vast majority of the funds that we raise here in North Texas each year. Almost 50% of the funds that we raise come through our Red Kettle effort in our Christmas fundraising. This year, as thousands of North Texans are struggling with the impact of inflation, rising evictions, and lingering effects of the pandemic, the Salvation Army of North Texas is showing that love exists beyond the most difficult situations. We have been adapting, expanding, and building our resources in response to these circumstances to meet this new generation of need. The services we provide every day are needed now more than ever. And with the help of generous contributions during the holiday season, we continue to help North Texans pay their bills, put food on their table, and have gifts under their tree, and keep roofs over their heads. Need knows no season. Each week, the Salvation Army of North Texas feeds 10,000 people through our 12 food pantries, treats 500 people through our 3 recovery programs, and houses 1,300 individuals in our 4 shelters and senior living centers. This Christmas, At a time when North Texans are facing greater and continuous hardship than ever before, the most important thing we can do is to keep hope alive. As the largest social service provider in North Texas, the Salvation Army enables God-empowered transformation so individuals and families across Dallas, Rockwall, Tarrant, Ellis, Denton, and Collin counties can achieve long-term stability and self-sufficiency. Donations in the North Texas Red Kettle stay in the community where they were given to meet local needs. Nearly half of our funds raised come through this effort. We are so thankful for the support of the elected officials in Fort Worth and for Mayor Parker for dedicating your time to spread the holiday spirit and helping us meet increasing requests for assistance. I thought about bringing the big kettle and having the whole council jump in. But we thought, nah, we'll just leave that to the Dallas Cowboys. But we do thank you, Mayor, for allowing us to come, and we want to allow you to kick off this holiday season.
Yeah, whatever is easiest for you. Okay, perfect. Perfect. My husband will say this is the only time I wear an apron. I better tie it on correctly. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna do the honors. And I think it's customary for council members to come down, but the good thing is there's a QR code. You can Google Pay or Apple Pay, so whatever's most convenient for you if you forgot your dollar. Okay, perfect. There you go. Y'all want to come down? Thank you.
Need to ring the bell?
Yep. Everybody but you.
I didn't see that.
You okay?
Yeah. What were you?
Yeah, it's right there. Sure.
Say, Maddie. Now you know I'm quick on my feet.
Web. Scared us.
All right, everybody, look right here.
Carlos, I want to be in the barrel.
1, 2, 3.
You'll get me out of the doghouse.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right.
There you go. Thanks, all.
That's great. Thank you so much. Very nice. Thank you. God bless.
No leaves.
Of course. Yeah.
Just a Merry Christmas, North Texas.
Merry Christmas, North Texas.
Do one more time. Do one more time.
Merry Christmas, North Texas.
You weren't recording.
Nope. Merry Christmas, North Texas. Got it. Perfect. Next up, I'm going to turn to Councilmember Alan Blaylock with a presentation of proclamation for Bet and Eddie Robinson Day. You okay? Betty, I apologize. Come on down. I said Bet instead of Betty.
So this has been a long time coming. I'm thrilled to be here and able to do this today. Manya and I have worked really hard on this. So I want to read the proclamation. Whereas in 1977, Betty and Eddie Robinson and their 3 sons moved from Atlanta, Georgia, where Eddie was the general manager of the Atlanta Braves baseball team, to return to his home in Texas as a general manager of the Texas Rangers. After extensive searching for a location to live, they selected a home on the east side. After a few years, Betty began to feel there was something important missing and she envisioned a library that would enrich the lives of Fort Worth youth. Whereas Betty began reaching out to East Fort Worth City Council members, local residents, and business leaders for their input and support of her vision, meetings were conducted at Eastern Hills High School, local restaurants, and residents' homes. Reflective of her help, after several years of due diligence in pursuing her vision, the Fort Worth City Council voted to approve bond funds for the library. Whereas the East Regional Library was built in 1966, and Betty had the vision to add a clock tower with chimes, bronze sculpture, landscaping, and a brick entry, and worked with the library to sell custom engraved bricks to fund the building. Betty personally laid over 1,000 bricks. That's a lot of work. Whereas the Fort Worth Public Library and the Woodhaven Neighborhood Association will be renaming the clock tower the Betty and Eddie Robinson Clock Tower. Now, therefore, the City of Fort Worth does hereby recognize and proclaim November 29th, 2022 as Betty and Eddie Robinson Day in the City of Fort Worth. Thank you so much for all you've done. You are a credit to the city. Really thankful you're here. Can Clarita, Jerry, would you like to come down and be in the picture with us? Everybody? Come on, all of you, come on down. Thank you all. We understand.
You might, I was gonna say you might want to mention tonight too.
We will.
Next will be a presentation of proclamation for the Fort Worth Community Arts Center.
I think this is Councilmember Leonard Firestone.
And anyone who's ever been to a show at the Scott Theater or
Morning, everyone. Come on down.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Amen.
We got everyone. Awesome. Hey,
Ben, are you on their board too?
not yet.
Okay. Yeah.
okay. Hi, Martha. Deborah. Hi there. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Another exciting day for a proclamation. So let me just read this out to everyone. So whereas 2022 marks the 20th anniversary of the Fort Worth Community Arts Center, established by a resolution of the Fort Worth City Council on November 19th, 2002, for, quote, local multicultural art organizations, end quote, and to promote, nurture, and support the arts in Fort Worth. And whereas the Fort Worth Community Arts Center is home to 4 resident artists, 10 nonprofit arts organizations, and welcomes as many as 80,000 guests to experience visual and performing art by over 500 artists and 50 organizations through 8 galleries and 3 theaters every year. Spectacular. And whereas the Community Arts Center is managed by Arts Fort Worth, which operates the City of Fort Worth's public art program and competitive grants program for the arts at the Community Arts Center. And whereas the Community Arts Center also hosts monthly art commission meetings, workshops, classes, and other educational programs that engage citizens and visitors in making art happen through this historic facility. Now, therefore, the City of Fort Worth does hereby recognize and celebrate November 19th, 2022 as the 20th anniversary of the Fort Worth Community Arts Center. Congratulations, everyone, and thank you all. Thanks, Justin. So appreciate it.
Yeah, and I can't give you the shirt off my back, but I can give you this one.
Awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Do you want to say a few words?
Oh, I'd love to, yeah.
Please, please.
And I just may have some note cards in my pocket here if I stick around. Yeah. But no, many of you know that this building, originally built in the 1950s, right? So it's been around for a little while, but 20 years ago, our city council did something really remarkable, which was designate what used to be the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth, the home for that, to be the Fort Worth Community Arts Center. And it's really, you know, with its size, its amenities, its location, it's one of the most dynamic public spaces for art, really in the US, and it's right in Fort Worth in one of the best cultural districts in the United States. So it's really an honor and a privilege for us to be stewards of that. I'm gonna progress my cards real fast. But personally, you know, to speak from my own experience, it's where I fell in love with opera, rehearsing with the Fort Worth Opera in the basement of the Community Arts Center. It's where I met the other great love of my life, my wife, there at the Arts Center. But I'm just one of tens of thousands of people, some of whom are represented here today, who have found their passion in the halls of 1300 Gendy Street. And that represents, you know, everything from people who are performing on Broadway now, who've got their start in the Scott and Sanders, people who are showing their art in Europe, all across the US, who originally had that art hanging in the galleries. And more importantly, I think, and more, you know, in a moving sense, it's a place for our residents to try their hand at printmaking. It's a place for our residents to come and learn what it means to be an artist as a business. It's a place for our residents to put a work of unpublished screenplay or something out there to have written to be performed by professionals and have that opportunity, or drop their kids off for a film camp. I mean, any number of things are happening there, usually 4 or 5 things at a time. So really, it's an honor for us to be stewards of the space. It's an honor of us to be representing thousands of people who can't be here in this room, who get to use the space. And we're here to commend the city for making this a place for our community to grow, learn, and connect through the arts. And we're here to commend our city and appreciate them for creating this space for us to do our work, and those who can't be here to do their work as well. And I'd further like to extend my thanks as president currently of the Arts Fort Worth and the Fort Worth Community Arts Center for the city commissioning a recent property assessment that helps us clearly understand what it's going to take to keep this facility operational and welcoming and accessible to the public for 20 more years. So I look forward to working with our community and, of course, our community leadership here on council to making sure we have a space that's here for those with creative minds and passionate hearts to have a home in Fort Worth through the Fort Worth Community Arts Center. So thank you so much. Yeah. I didn't, you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Very well said.
Thank you.
Very well
Thank you
said.
so much.
I got it.
Yeah, a couple, the wide angle lens here. Oh. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Next will be items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda.
Are yours. Okay. We have one item to remove from the consent agenda. That's MNC 22-0994.
Next is items to be continued or withdrawn or note from staff.
We have one clarification. It's on MNC 22-1018, and there were 2 different versions of the ordinance posted with this MNC. The one marked ordinance/impact fee schedule 2 and code revisions should be disregarded. Thank you, Mayor.
Next will be consent speakers. Mayor, we have 2.
Sure, our first speaker is Bob Willoughby. Bob might be in the hallway. Thank you, Dennis. Oh, here he comes. Bob Willoughby is followed by Travis Clegg, but he did note wish to speak only if there's opposition, which right now there is none.
I signed up for 2 things. Are both of those agenda items, or is one of them an unagenda? Do I got 3 minutes for all, or do I got 2 of them to speak on?
You have 3 minutes on this item, on the consent agenda
Do I
item.
get 3 minutes on the other one too?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. And what's this one here? This one is the firefighters? Oh, I got a whole 3 minutes to speak about this one. Okay. First thing, let me tell you, the Firefighter Association, the POA, Police Association, are really undermining our local elections by endorsing these candidates. We give our tax dollars to firefighters and police people to protect and everything. They turn around and pay POA dues and firefighters dues, which turn around and put money and endorsements in these candidates to keep them in these seats. That's wrong. It's 100% wrong. Until the Firefighter Association vice president or president will come on my local voter education program. The fire chief came on, assistant city manager's been on, council members have been on, but the POA and the Firefighter Association will not come on and confront him. I filmed him out here in the hallway and he ran off, much like the city manager. When you give them a question they can't answer, they shut up and run off. That's the answer for this city, and that's what I'm sick of. I've had it for 10 years down here. You hit them with a question they can't answer, they shut up and run off. That's what they do. Nothing. Oh, I can't wait till we talk about you taking away our right to speak on the next one. But anyway, the Firefighter Association, it's not a good association. It's not, until they start using that money to help firefighters or do something decent other than buying candidates. And I want to say, any candidate that takes an endorsement from the POA, firefighters, or Star Telegram, that's not a good candidate. They're not good because they don't want to run a fair race. They don't care about a fair race. They can't win on merit. They can't win on issues because they don't know what they're doing. They have to have endorsements and large money, and that's how they get. Half these people have never been to a council meeting sitting up here. Not even been to one. And here they are. You know? They don't go to budget meetings. They don't know anything about budget. It's just terrible. So we need the Firefighter Association to be notified what it is. It's nothing but a special interest group to help keep the wrong people in office at this point. Same thing with the POA. And that's all I can say is any candidate that takes endorsements or accepts money from these people, they might as well take it from the KKK or the Nazis, you know? Might as well, but just as bad. Thank you.
Yeah. Travis Clegg. Okay. That's it, Jeanette. Thank you.
Next is approval of the consent agenda as amended.
A motion and a second. Any discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next is MNC 22-0944.
Right?
And the mic on, there you go. I wanted to pull this off and highlight and say thanks to staff here. This is the Bomber Spur project. It has been a long time coming to at least get to this point. So I wanted to publicly thank Parks, Joel McElhaney, who has championed this a long time, and our Parks, Richard, everybody else that's been a process of this, Dave now too. Also Streams and Valleys. I don't see Stacy Pierce here, but who has organized and helped sort of lead this effort. And this is the first part of this project. If you're not familiar with it, it will create a 26-mile loop around. It'll connect Trinity Trails so more people will have access to the Trinity Trails and enjoy our river and everything about it. So with that, I move to approve.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be announcements by City Council for upcoming and recent events, recognition of citizens, and approval of ceremonial travel if needed.
Thank you, Mayor. Melissa, whenever you are ready. All right. Recently, we celebrated Taylor Sheridan, director of Yellowstone and 1883, the National Cowgirl Museum Hall of Fame. Great attendance, really humble guy, a very interesting background, so we appreciate his contributions to the heritage of Fort Worth. Next slide, please. Finally, Artes de la Rosa had its Dia de los Muertos parade. We were rained out the original date, but came back. Sunny skies welcomed us, and again, we had more than what was expected in terms of parade attendees, and then we had a great fiesta there behind the plaza area at Rose Marine Theater. So thanks to all who pulled together to make it happen, among them the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Visita Fort Worth, we had Ballet Folklorico Inc., and many, many others. Thank you, one and all. Next slide, please. All right, Lone Star Film Festival. Again, we're celebrating the great film heritage that Fort Worth is developing and is getting to be known for. We had actors that were recognized. We had Mr. Lamonca, who was there. Again, Taylor Sheridan, the director. And we have Mr. Bingham, musician, who played for us there at the Hotel Drover. And that's my friend Rose, who is with the Hispanic Chamber. Appreciate her support and the Hispanic Chamber support. Next slide, please. Okay, go through that again. There's some additional slides there for the film festival. All right, St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church had its annual Greek Food Fest. And as you can see right there, that's just one tent of many, including the inside of the church, that welcomed a lot of regular patrons and new faces alike. We see, speaking of those new faces, David Cook and his wife Denise, who visited there, and I think they had a pretty good time. I'll let David be the judge of that, but they were pretty happy and enjoyed the food and music and merriment. Thanks for attending. Next slide, please. Northside High Legacy Foundation, again, has its annual gala, raises money for scholarships for Northside High School students. Glad to be a sponsor and contributor to that effort, get students started on the right path and lead them on to bigger and better things. Next slide, please. And this is in Alan Blaylock's neck of the woods. Thank you, Alan, for inviting us to the groundbreaking for HEB. That's something I think all of Fort Worth has been waiting for. So congratulations to Alan, and a little shout out to Artes de la Rosa. HEB is a very philanthropic organization and supportive of the community. They surprised us all by giving a $10,000 check to Artes de la Rosa. So thank you, HEB, and thank you, Alan. Next slide, please. All right, Revive Coffee, small business that opened up on Roosevelt and 25th Street there on the north side. You see Cassie and Jacob Warren and their family. I joined them for their groundbreaking and opening. They're very excited. Had a little trouble navigating some of our city process to get through the permitting, but we helped them out, and they're very happy about that. So good wishes to them. Next slide, please. All right, North Tri-Ethnic Community Center had their turkey bingo, so I donated some turkeys, didn't cook them, thank God. You wouldn't want me to cook turkeys. And I called out some bingo cards. So let me tell you, the seniors are very competitive when it comes to their bingo. So be on notice. Next slide, please. All right, Michael Crane, Alan Blaylock, and myself, we got on top of a float for the GM Parade of Lights. And fun, had by all. The rain cleared out. It was a little chilly, but we had a great time with it representing Fort Worth. So thank you, everyone who made that possible for us. Next slide, please. All right, Christmas in the Stockyards. Had the honor of turning on the Christmas tree with my family and Cowboy Santa and Mrs. Claus, flanked there in the other frame by two of our MPOs there in the Stockyards area. So appreciate everyone coming there. The tree lit when it was supposed to, so what more can you ask for? Next slide, please. All right, on a serious note, this past Sunday, former City Council member Jim Lane passed away. He had mounting health concerns and, just gave up the ghost, put up a good fight. We're gonna miss Jim. In addition to being a former City Council member, renowned attorney in these here parts, strong advocate for the Fort Worth Stockyards and our historic preservation. Father of the Fort Worth Herd, he made that happen along with former Mayor Barr. Lots to say about Jim. I'll say this. I always appreciated him being very forthright with me. More than a neighbor, he was also a mentor for me and others. I'll share a brief little story about Jim. When I first became council member, we had an event there in the Stockyards in the Coliseum, and I went up and greeted him, and he looked at me and looked up at my hat, and I had an old Justin Straw hat on, and he said, if you're going to be council member for the Stockyards, you need to get a better hat. And I responded back and I said, well, Jim, I think you of all people know what council members earn. So I'll work on that, but always appreciated Jim's friendship. My condolences to his wife, Janet, and Jake. May God keep y'all. And that's it.
So one announcement today, as we saw earlier, the proclamation for Betty and Eddie Robinson. This evening, we are having the public dedication of the Eastern Regional Library Clock Tower. It'll occur at 6 o'clock p.m. There'll be refreshments and a presentation by the East Fort Worth Community Jazz Combo. Everyone's invited. Please feel free to come on and help celebrate. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. I have one announcement today for the residents who work or live in the Alta Mesa McCart area. I'm inviting you to join us for a community meeting on next Monday, December 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. To learn more about current plans to revitalize the Alta Mesa McCart area. And we would love to hear your experiences with safety, streets, parks, and other elements in this area as we continue this important planning process. So join us there. I look forward to seeing you there. If you can't make it, you can always reach out to our office to share your experiences and hopes for the area. You can do that either by our District 6 phone or our District 6 email. And for more information about the event, you can visit our social media at Jared Williams TX. Thanks.
Councilmember Firestone?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple announcements here. We, just before Thanksgiving break, we held the groundbreaking for the Northwest Community Center that will be within the Northwest Community Park. It's a little bit of a chilly day, but we had a good kickoff with the Saginaw High School band. The community center was approved in the 2018 bond. The land where the Northwest Community Park now sits was settled by German immigrants over 100 years ago. They built the levee, dam, and spillway in the lake that exists on the property today. The ranch was later purchased by the Loffridge family in 1965, and then by the McMillan family in the 70s. And about 6 years ago, Fort Worth purchased the land with the assistance of the Texas Parks and Wildlife grants. The park now has ball fields in addition to the lake, and now it will have the second community center in District 7. Really exciting. And thank you all. Next slide. Thanks for everyone who was out there. It's a little hazy, but this was out at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden and the Botanic Research Institute of Texas, which is hosting Lightscape through January 8th. And Lightscape is an illuminated trail featuring spectacular artistic installations that come to life after dark. This Fort Worth debut follows sold-out seasons in London, Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York. So we are very pleased to have this event in Fort Worth. My wife and I were able to attend along with Councilman Blaylock and his wife. Brandon Bennett and Dana Bergdorf were there, and Richard Zavala. And it really is spectacular. I think it's going to become a great tradition in Fort Worth, and I would encourage everyone to take the time to go out. Next slide, please. Finally, we went on a hard hat tour of the Bowie House Hotel on historic Camp Bowie Boulevard. This hotel, which will be opening next year, will be, or in 2024, will be managed by Auberge Resorts. It's going to be a 5-star hotel and just really first class. So the hotel will have a world-class spa, restaurants, and hotel rooms with curated art focused on Fort Worth. I just wanted to thank Austin Construction for the tour and for working so closely with the North Highmount Neighborhood Association throughout this construction process, which has not been easy on everyone, but we appreciate their efforts to work with the neighborhood every step of the way. Thanks very much.
Councilmember Nettles?
Yes, the first slide shows Pastor Robert McKenty was elevated to be a moderate in the Baptist church, and so we was there celebrating him on that day. The next slide, please. Panther City, La Crosse, I had the opportunity of being the chairperson for the Forward Rotary a few Fridays ago, and just want to announce that the Panther City La Crosse team is getting ready to kick off. I believe the first week is Friday, December the 9th. And so if you haven't had opportunity to visit a La Crosse team, it's a great sport. Come out and see them. And so those are all that I have today. Thank you.
And I think that's the last of our council presentations.
Next will be speakers on non-consent items.
Our first speaker is Bob Willoughby.
All right. Well, this one here is a good one. This is one y'all took our right away to speak about a year ago. And this is a beauty. They lied about it, constantly lied about this. What they should have out there, public presentation. The public's presentation has been removed from this agenda. We don't speak here anymore at council meetings. We're over in quarantine with them on 2 days a month. It used to be 12 minutes a month we spoke. We've been cut down to 6 minutes. Why would anybody take our right away to speak like that? And they don't answer. And I ask, who did this? Who changed these rules, the time, and cut down the council meetings? And I went to open records. You know what they say? No document exists. So nobody will take credit for this. Oh, it's such a good thing, but nobody wants to stand up and say, hey, this is my idea. They won't tell you who did it, but we have to live by it, and that's wrong. Mr. Baylock, hey, remember when you campaigning, when we came to the forum, and I asked you about our right to speak? And you said, yes, you'd be for the right to speak. Let's see how you vote today. We'll see if you're lying then or if you're not. You vote against this, you're not lying for our speak. But if you vote for it, take our right away to speak, you were a liar that day, sir. It don't matter about us. What matters is Judgment Day. You people don't know anything about that, do you? You don't think about it, but it happens. You know, Thomas was down here. We got a plaque. We got 100 people signed so far. We want a plaque up for Thomas. He was a very good speaker down here. He was one of the most activists, he was a lot better than me at this, okay? And he deserves credit. And I believe the credit you people give out to people, Thomas should get a plaque. No doubt about it. And if you don't know who that was, he was one of the best. He died September the 7th, unexpectedly. But anyway, yeah, Beck, we get your stick. That's what you told him. Yeah, Maddie, you're done. Yeah, he's done. Right, that's what you told him. So you people, you're unbelievable is what you are. I'm glad there's an election coming up in May. And I grant you, and I'll promise you one thing, as God is my witness.
Bob, is there anything on this particular item that has to do with the next year's council schedule?
This is about the speaking, right?
Let's stick to that. Great.
Okay, this is where you took away our right. You're going to keep us on the same thing, right? Only 2 public comment meetings a month, and we're not on the council meeting anymore, and this is for another year. Have I got that right? That the public presentation is not going to be on the city council meeting for another year. Am I right there or wrong? Can't answer that, huh? Okay, I'm going to try again, one more time. Do y'all understand that? Will the public presentation be on this council agenda next year or not? Can you answer that? Yes or no? That's all. If you can't answer that question, why in God's creation are you sitting up there? I don't understand. This is my city. I grew up here. And the way you act is you're like the spoiled children. Okay? That's the way you act. You're too young. You're too immature for the job. Get out in the private market if you want all that attention. Try it out there. I'm anxious to see how you vote, Mr. Bailey. You know what? Someone said, you're just like Mr. Moon. You are. That's what he did. He sat there and smiled all the time, too. I said, you're just like him. Have a good day.
Council, that's the last of our speakers. No? On this resolution? But on this? We're not taking them on each item at the time they're here? We should be. We're going to take them each at a time. Yeah, thank you. So that's the last of our speakers on this resolution item, council. I can take a motion, and then we'll take discussion from council members. Thank you, Gina. Motion and a second. Any discussion, council? Councilmember Nettles?
Yeah, I have some discussion. Thank you. This is where we have opportunity to answer, I think, the question that Bob had. And so we have this posted of the calendar set for this next coming calendar year. And I want to be very vocal, as I have been vocal on this council, is that I believe that citizens should have the right to speak each time this council meets. We took that vote where it takes it down from 4 to 2. We took that vote several months ago. This vote today is basically setting the agenda and the calendar for the entire year. So it's not about continuing to take the right away. It's keeping in place or setting the dates so that you all know when we are scheduled to meet. And so that's what this vote is about today. Yes, to answer Bob's question, it is only going to continue to have 2 public presentations each month. And then when we meet on zoning and on MNCs, you only can talk during the MNCs that you sign up for. And so to answer your question, that is what we're doing today. Again, I will be very vocal that hopefully in the future we can put it back on the council agenda where you can speak each time. But I will submit to you that you can always call, you can always email. My office is open. I believe my council members' office is open as well. And so we really want to hear what the citizens have to say. And so that's my 2 cents on this vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2577.
Councilmember Crane?
I move to approve Resolution 22-2577 with the following amendments. This is in support of Visit Fort Worth and all the great work that they're doing with Film Fort Worth and Jessica Christopherson. We've overlooked this, but it's a support of state appropriations for the film industry here in Fort Worth. One, the motion is to support of state appropriations, add funding that incentivizes or benefits film and TV projects in the city of Fort Worth. And 2, support legislation, add support for legislation that incentivizes or benefits film and TV projects in the city of Fort Worth.
Thank you, Michael. Councilmember, okay, thank you, Jared. And special thanks, is TJ still here? TJ, thank you for leading us through this process. You've done an excellent job. And to Michael Crane, as chair of the legislative committee, your entire committee has worked really hard to get to this place. So we look forward to another session, right, TJ? Okay. Council, you can vote. Yeah. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2575.
We have no speakers on this item. Councilmember Beck? Thank you. Go ahead, Michael. Should be. We're having issues with mics. I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to say a point of clarification. I will be abstaining from this vote. This actually affects my wife. She has taken a job with a very great organization, Child Care Associates. I will say that if anybody wants to look at this and think that I had anything to do with her getting this job, they would be crazy, because I'm probably more of a liability to her than she is to me. And she is a great and wonderful person, but I wholeheartedly support this for her. I think it's a great move. That's for sure.
Second. Congrats, man.
Yeah. I've got a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2576.
We have one speaker on this item, Travis Clegg. Okay. No speakers, council. And a motion, please. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2578.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0941.
I think Kelly Pickard's coming down.
Report by Kelly Pickard.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. The presentation up. Great, thank you. So I'm here this morning because this is part of our compliance with our child care licensing exemption from the state of Texas. So the state's Human Resources Code, a section of that says to us that if you provide municipal recreation youth programs for youth ages 5 to 13, that if you meet certain requirements for those programs that last 5 consecutive days or longer, that you can be exempt from the child care licensing. So part of that is why I'm here. It says that if City Council adopts annually standards of care by ordinance after a public hearing, and also follows other protocol, such as making sure that we don't advertise our program as a child care facility, that we don't tell parents that we are licensed by the state, and we do all these things that we can get our annual exemption. So the intent of these standards is to make sure that people know these are the minimum standards by which the city will operate all of our youth programs. So the minimum that we have to meet is make sure that everyone knows what our staffing ratios are, that they know what each of the staffing qualifications are, and that we provide facility health and safety standards, and also tell how we're going to monitor and enforce. So this year, the staff from both Neighborhood Services and the Park and Recreation Department are recommending 6 substantive changes to the standards of care for 2023. Half of those involve hiring 16-year-olds in our program. Typically, that's been 17. We did allow volunteers 16 years of age or older, but we wanted to codify this because there's some really great youth out there who need opportunities to enter our job market. What better way for them to get entry-level experience is to continue their experience with us from summer day camp to serve as that bridge through our rec leaders and training program and let us be that first job for them. Also, it helped with the pool of candidates, obviously, which is not a bad thing. So this first change involves changing that variance in age from 4 years to 3 years. The second change involves taking away that 6 months minimum experience required for youth. We want to be that entry level for them if they haven't had the opportunity to work elsewhere. We've also had several people in our programs who have gone on to fulfill full-time careers in park and recreation at our community centers, and so we want to continue that. The next change, because most 16-year-olds do not have their GED or high school diploma yet, is to take away that minimum requirement as well for our camp leaders. The next change under leader responsibilities is we added age into considering when we provide rewards and consequences for youth in the programs. And that's simply because youth have varying developmental or cognitive abilities, and we want to make sure that those are being applied correctly and consistently. The next change under program operations involves special needs. Currently in the policy, parents are supposed to inform us in writing if their children have any developmental issues or other issues that would be a concern for them participating in group activities. This asks for us to be informed at the time of their registration, and that's simply to allow us time to make any accommodations or adaptive changes to the program, because we want to set every camper up for success who enters our programs. The last change is a simple one. It just codifies current practices. Our pickup and drop-offs are all done electronically now, and so that's just putting that into the policy. On November 16th, 2022, the Park and Recreation Advisory Board did endorse the recommendation to adopt these standards of care for youth for 2023. Staff would recommend the City Council receive any public comment, and upon completion of the public comment, that the City Council close the public hearing and take action. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Kelly? Go ahead, Gina. Councilmember Vivens.
I'm concerned about the safety of children. You know, whenever you watch the news these days, whether it's this city, another city, it breaks your heart to hear about children being abused or neglected. I think there's a certain expectation parents have when they put their children in our care at our various centers. How do you communicate to these parents what we are not? Because I think there's an assumption that they think we're just like any other provider. How do you communicate that?
That's involved at the very front end of our summer day camp and orientation. Parents are provided with the standards of care. We lay out all the policies and procedures. And during our orientation, we share with them what all of our newly onboarded staff go through, our camp leaders, but also our permanent staff, share with them the training that they receive. So we bring in specialists during orientation for all of our camp leaders, these new people coming on all the different areas of safety and security, whether it's recognizing signs of child abuse, other issues that we need to watch out for kids, but also teaching common safety practices. We have the Fort Worth Police Department come in, do some of our training for site safety and security. And so we try to get across during our orientations with the parents what we do and who we are and what we're there to provide. But we also make sure that there's an open line of communication between parents and our center staff to make sure that if there's any issues or questions, that they know who to come to.
And my other question, since you're dropping the age from 4 to 3 years, do you segregate the maturity of the workers so that you don't have someone with no experience dealing with a crying 3-year-old?
We do, and there's always someone with more experience around shadow situations, and it's the same thing with our rec leader and training program, which is the 14 to 17-year-olds. And so they're there to shadow, but we also do have the groups. The program is ages 5 to 13, so we make sure that they're grouped appropriately as well for their own cohorts.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council? Councilmember Williams?
Yes. Hey, Kelly, I just wanted to commend you for the youth leader program. I know one very special person to me went through that, Kendall Locke, and now he's on the higher heights. So I think it's an incredible opportunity for our teens to get that working experience and accelerate their careers. So thank you for that.
Any other questions, council? If not, we can consider a motion. Motion and a second. Please vote. Thank you, Kelly, for your hard work. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0960, report of city staff by Sherry Gordon.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I am Cherie Gordon, Business Development Coordinator of Economic Development Department. The purpose of the hearing is to receive public comment regarding the designation of a tax abatement reinvestment zone number 104. The legal description of the site is attached to MNC 22-0960, and a map of the zone is displayed on the monitors. We don't even have the map, sorry. The proposed tax abatement reinvestment zone number 104 is located on approximately 445,870 square feet for the property at 5650 Alliance Gateway in Fort Worth, Texas. The City of Fort Worth wishes to support new investment in business activity, and in particular, to support the expansion of Beauty Manufacturing Products Corp. to Fort Worth. To facilitate the project, the City of Fort Worth wishes to enter into a tax abatement agreement with the company based on a portion of the incremental value of real and business personal property at the project site. Today's City Council agenda also includes the companion tax abatement agreement, which will be considered as a separate action under MNC 22-0959 subsequent to the public hearing. In accordance with state law, notice of this hearing has been published in the Star-Telegram, a newspaper of general circulation within the City of Fort Worth, and notice has been given to each of the taxing entities that levy taxes on this property. Following public comments, staff recommends closing the public hearing and approving M&C 22-0960, which includes the following: finding that the improvements are feasible and practical and would be a benefit to the land to be included in tax abatement reinvestment zone number 104 and to the city after expiration of any tax abatement agreements, and adoption of an ordinance designating tax abatement reinvestment zone number 104. Adoption of the attached ordinance does not obligate the city council to approve any tax abatement agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Any questions? Councilmember Firestone?
I'd like to move to close the public hearing and approve M&C 220960.
Motion and a second. Council, any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0988, report by Captain Marcia Conrad.
Good morning. I'm Marcy Conrad. I'm the captain over investigative support. That includes schools and the youth section. And I'll let the sergeant introduce himself.
Good morning. I'm Sergeant Nash. I'm the supervisor over the youth unit for the police department.
So the purpose of the public hearing is to review whether the city's curfew ordinance should be continued for 3 more years. The state requires municipalities to conduct 2 public hearings to review and approve the curfew ordinance every 3 years. Today is the first public hearing, and the second one will be December 13th, 2022. And the City Council last approved this ordinance in January 2020. If the City Council does not approve the ordinance after the second public hearing on December 13th, the curfew ordinance will expire January 14th, 2023. If the curfew ordinance is approved on December 13th, it will be in effect into 2026. In the past 3 years, since October 2019, the number of curfew citations has decreased by 59.7%. And although there is no tangible mechanism to measure the absence of crime, it is believed that the number of citations has decreased due to the reduced number of juveniles on the street between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. This ordinance is not used often, but it is a good tool for officers in the field to address juvenile-related issues. The police department, marshal's division, and municipal prosecutors have not experienced any problems with enforcing and prosecuting curfew violations. The public hearing should now be open for public comment. So again, curfew hours means 11 p.m. on any Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday until 6 a.m. of the following day, and 12:01 a.m. until 6 a.m. on any Saturday or Sunday. So safety continues to be the #1 priority with the police department, and preventive measures such as curfews are paramount during the months, especially when school's out. We truly have our hands full then. And by making it illegal for teens under the age of 18 to be out during this time, we hope to prevent the number of crimes that involve juveniles from increasing, protect kids from potential predators, and maintain general peace during hours when people need the rest the most. So it also provides an element of safety for the teens and the community. The presence of the teen curfew law works to prevent the issue of missing children from occurring. And this is especially true for young females between the ages of 12 and 17 because it stops predators from having easy access to them while they're on the street. Having a teen at home at night helps a family to feel relieved because there's an assurance that nothing will happen without there being a chance to respond to that. And at the same time, a teenage curfew should offer teens a reward that goes beyond not getting into trouble as a way to be effective. Because when we praise kids for making positive choices, then it begins to reinforce the positive habits they're trying to create in their own lives moving forward. So to me, it's a win-win. I believe that's how our department feels: safety for children, peace of mind for parents, and it also lessens the workload on officers out on the streets. Sergeant Nash, would you like to add anything to that?
I'm just here for any questions you guys may have.
Thank you both. Questions from council? Councilmember Nettles?
Yes. Can you give those times again? I missed the first set, the ones you said for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Okay. 11 p.m. on any Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, until 6 a.m. of the following morning.
Okay, thank you. And then the other ones is 12 midnight until
Yes, sir.
6 a.m.
12:01 a.m. until 6 a.m. on any Saturday or Sunday.
Okay. And so, Mayor, we're not voting on this today?
We're not correct. We're actually going to vote to continue this item until December.
Fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
So with that, Councilmember Nettles, since your green light's on, if you don't mind making that motion to continue this item until our next December meeting.
Yes, I move to continue this item until December the 13th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion to continue passes.
Next item is MNC 22-0963.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-1018.
Thank you. We have a few speakers on this item, council. Before we take speakers, I'm going to turn to Councilmember Michael Crane to go over what the amendments will be when we get to those motions in a minute so that the audience knows what those may look like.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll be making a motion to approve 22-1018 with the following amendments. One, adopt a residential collection rate of 50% of Schedule 1 effective June 1st, which is my birthday, 2023, with annual increases of 5 percentage points up to 65%. And two, amend City Code Charter 30, Article 8, to permit charter and private schools serving grades K through 12 to not pay transportation impact fees. And that would give them parity with the ISDs.
Thank you, Councilmember Crane. So our first speaker on this item is Joe Potoff. Joe will be followed by Maribel Gallardo. No, you go ahead.
My name is Joe Potoff, 6709 Gascony Place, Fort Worth, Texas, 76132. I've been a resident for over 23 years there. And I just wanted to hit a few high points on some concerns that I think that maybe we can address going forward. I understand that the process has moved along a little further than I had realized. And so I had given each of you a letter, or sent each of you a letter, and I think that it still has a lot of information that needs to be followed up on. I based my observations primarily on having about 47 years of public, private, and volunteer experience that has crossed this issue many, many times. And I wanted to commend the staff and the volunteers that worked on this, because I think that it's always a very sticky and difficult issue. One of the things that I noticed that was, by the way, I also own a 73-acre tract that's already zoned for commercial and multifamily uses. And so I am also a property owner that is very much interested in how our ordinances are impacting development. The things that I really wanted to highlight were that we really need to be careful about what we're doing with workforce housing. Workforce housing has been talked about for, gosh, at least 20 years, maybe longer, I don't know, as being a real need in Fort Worth, and that it's critical to our economic development. I know I've represented the folks when the Trinity Bluff project was done, and it was certainly all discussed at that time. as part of the economic development considerations. I think that this is a good, I'm really wanting to use this as an opportunity to suggest we need to refocus on the issue of workforce housing. The TI fees, I'm calling them TI, the transportation impact fees, impose additional costs on housing. We need to harmonize those fees with fair housing and economic development policies. We need to think about the timing. We've already heard tonight from Salvation Army. It's real clear that the timing is pretty difficult. People are having a hard time. There are certain. Is that
Thank you, Joe.
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Maribel Gallardo, followed by Don Allen.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Council. I am Maribel Gallardo, a Fort Worth resident and the Director of Advocacy and Community Affairs for the Greater Fort Worth Association of Realtors. Our association represents over 4,900 real estate professionals in our community, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak on this subject today. We agree that the upkeep and addition of transportation infrastructure is imperative to maintaining our city. However, we are opposed to the 65% as proposed for the transportation impact fee collection rate for residential properties. While initially paid by the developer, these fees are ultimately passed on to the homeowner to bear the cost. And as housing prices have vastly increased and interest rates continue to rise, an increase in impact fees reduces the affordability of new homes, especially when considering the median cost of a home in Fort Worth is around $341,000 as of October. This issue today is an affordability issue that becomes compounded by the increased cost of living that we are currently facing due to inflation. That is why we would like to recommend that council does the residential impact fee rate to 50%. We want to continue to ensure that new and current residents are able to afford housing within the city of Fort Worth, and that we remain a competitive city, not only statewide, but nationwide. I would like to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Maribel. Our next speaker is Don Allen, followed by Clint Vincent.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm pleased to be here today. I'm Don Allen. I'm a local single-family real estate developer. I'm a past president of the Greater Fort Worth Builders Association, and I'm the first vice president of the Texas Association of Builders. We're here to not be against this or for this. We're here to try and work with the city to try and create some type of reasonable, balanced increase. We understand the position the city's in. We're not here to say no to anything. But the impact fees that are proposed could be chillingly and dramatic, have negative impacts on housing costs. We're aware of that. We're aware of what's going on with mortgage rates right now. $14,000 to $22,000 in costs for a new house in increases. Builders can't absorb that because they have to go back to the bank and get a loan for the next time, and they have to make a profit in order to get another bank loan. So builders can't just simply absorb these costs. They will be passed on to the homeowners. That's just the way business works. This will have a ripple effect on housing prices throughout the city. Anytime a new subdivision comes in, the adjacent subdivisions are going to feel the impact of their appraisals. It's going to raise their taxes, school taxes, county taxes, as well as city taxes. We just hope that you'll take that in consideration. One thing I really want to ask about is this study shows spending $2 billion in the various service areas over the next 5 years. $2 billion. The last bond increase in election in 2022 was $369 million. In 2018, it was $261 million, I believe. And even with past bond issues, the city has struggled and never completed a bond issue within 5 years of passing those bonds. Now we're saying we're going to spend $2 billion in 5 years. I don't believe that's feasible. So the numerator, what we're calculating all this on, is something I believe needs to be more transparent. It needs to be studied. We need to have a system to really track this much better, I think, than maybe we have in the past. With water and sewer impact fees, we went back and looked at those at a 40, in the 2021 study, I believe, we looked at the previous study, which is, I believe, 2016, and at a 40% assessment rate of water and sewer impact fees, they actually paid for 92% of all eligible impact fee projects. So clearly, there's a disconnect between what's put in that they think they're going to spend and what actually got spent over that period. So we're supporting a 50% assessment rate. With that, that would generate $1 billion in impact fees over the next 5 years to the city, and we think that would be a great compromise. We're not here saying no. We're saying we're willing to increase our fees, but please be reasonable.
Thank you, Don. Our next speaker is Clint Vincent, followed by Travis Clegg.
Mayor, Council, Clint Vincent. I'm with Bloomfield Homes, 1050 East Highway 114, Suite 210. And I just want to kind of reiterate something I said in the last time we were here, that the home ownership in the city of Fort Worth creates that more stable neighborhoods, those more stable schools, those more stable communities. And the biggest threat to home ownership in Fort Worth is the affordability crisis. I don't want to belabor the fact, I just wanted to put a little bit of math together for, and really it's a community that we purchased in, Bloomfield purchased in the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. It will be, I believe now, Mr. Nettles, in your district, at Risinger and 35. And the way land purchases and development are completed is the market actually is set by, or the price of the houses and the prices of the lot are set by the market, right? What can people afford, what they're willing to afford, the competition. Then the cost to put the lots on the ground is kind of fixed on basically how much is the water, the sewer, the storm, the paving, all that's kind of a fixed rate. Well, the variable in there is the cost of the land. And based on what we paid for that land, the increases that are going to happen in that neighborhood are more than 4 times the cost of the land on a per lot basis. Essentially, what I'm saying is this is going to be a gut punch to the housing industry across Fort Worth, but to District 8, Mr. Nettles, it completely shuts it down. There's no developer or home builder that's going to build and lose money, and there's no homeowner that's going to sell their land for $0. So essentially, if the 65% is passed, it just shuts down certain districts, and then there's a certain gut punch to the rest of the city. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Clint. Our next speaker is Travis Clegg.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Travis Clegg with Peloton Land Solutions here in Fort Worth. I am the chairman of the Development Advisory Committee in Fort Worth. I am the Government Affairs Chair for the Home Building Association in Fort Worth, and the past chair of Government Affairs for the Real Estate Council here in Fort Worth. First, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for the staff, for all the hard work they put into this conversation. We've held numerous meetings with the city from various stakeholders who were concerned about the future of impact fees, specifically Dana Burdoff and her crew, DJ Harrell, Jennifer Roberts, and Marion Spencer, who have been at every meeting we've had. They've been very responsive, quick with information and data, and always willing to have a tough conversation. Second, I'd like to thank Mayor and Council for listening to the stakeholders, both the industry and the residents. This is not an easy conversation, and it's a very complex subject with significant developments weighing their decisions on this council vote. Further, you could have voted to adopt a rate last month, and you delayed that to listen to us, and we really appreciate that. The city has listened to the concerns of the stakeholders on several significant issues. One, lessening the burden on small business owners. Two, giving adequate facility discounts to those projects near highways and textile facilities. And three, giving discounts based on significant investments for these businesses. I haven't heard a lot of concern about the stakeholder recommendation of 40% collection on industrial and commercial and waiting until June, and we thank you for that. This delay will give a little more time for these developments to take hold that have already kind of started in motion. where the concern is the home building side of things. I appreciate the amendment. 50% was our initial goal going in. As Clint and Don have said, 50% is more than double the current rate. And that's just a rate number. The actual dollars is 4 to 5 times the dollar collection by the city. So, and I bring this up before in our meetings, every $1,000 increase is 20,000 Texas families that can't afford to qualify for a home. So if we're raising things $10,000, it's compounded pretty heavily. Lastly, I'll say with the current market conditions changing as rapidly as we are seeing, home building is in a significant decline. We've seen that in the papers with interest rates and inflation at a 40-year high. I think it'd be wise for this council to, let's see where this market goes. I appreciate the 50% to start out with, and let's continue to have this conversation. If things are great in 12 to 18 months, let's have a conversation again, and let's see where this goes. And I just appreciate, again, to work with staff going forward on the impact fee policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Council, that's the last of our speakers, and we can take discussion at this moment. Councilmember Flores?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, appreciate the ongoing conversations between staff, the development community, as well as our resident community. Everyone stepped up, gave their input, and I think all of us do appreciate that. We all agree that in past years, the collection rate was below what it should have been, back when. That's in the past. We have infrastructure needs that we need to fund, across our city. So how do we get there? That's the question. We all agree that there should be a rate increase, but how do we do that? How do we implement it? The timing, as someone said, is also very critical. All this not just factors into what we can fund to do infrastructure-wise, but also, the cost of doing business here at the city, the cost of developers as well. So I will be in support, of this. It's been said, we're in uncertain times. None of us here can accurately forecast what is happening, but there is a slowdown. That is evident. Home building is a key driver to our local economy. So again, we're with the 50% collection rate, we're more than doubling what we've been collecting in past years, and council and staff can revisit this at any time. Now, to that end, this is not part of Michael's motion, but going forward, maybe as a separate action, separate resolution in the near future, I would ask that council and staff consider a formation of an advisory committee similar to what we do with water and wastewater impact fee committees, or the committee that we have here that advises the water department. We could have something like that comprised of the development stakeholders, home builder stakeholders, and residents that would advise the development department as to the trends that they're seeing with impact fees and the effects. So I will support the motion.
Thank you, Carlos. Councilmember Williams?
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the amendments, especially as it relates to the impact of impact fees on our public schools. And so we had a couple questions about that as it relates to public charter schools, NGOs, and governmental agencies. And so I just wanted Dana Burdoff to clarify for us kind of what these amendments do to help address that.
Miriam's coming down. She delegated.
Thank you, Dana, for delegating.
Hi, Miriam Spencer at the Development Services Department. So just a couple things to go over real quick. Right now, charter schools and private schools do pay. And so we did a little bit of research, and we've had 7 charter schools pay. And of those 7 charter schools that paid, 2 qualified for the adequate facilities discount, and 2 were located within an impact fee credit agreement. And so they were built in developments that had built infrastructure. And we also had quite a few charter schools that were built in our inside the loop that were impact fee exempt because they were in no fee service areas. Private schools, we had We had 9 that were subject to the impact fee ordinance. And similar to the charter schools, we did have 2 that were in a credit agreement as well. Nonprofits do pay transportation impact fees, but similar to some of the discounts that we had revised earlier, if they're located on a roadway that is fully constructed, that they would get the adequate facilities discount. And with the addition of the new proposed small business discount, some of those may potentially qualify for that as well. And yes, governments do pay transportation impact fees. That includes ourselves. So when we build community centers and libraries and police stations and fire stations, we ourselves pay impact fees as well.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Dr. Williams.
Yes, and Dana, you might need to help because we had a conversation yesterday. Basically, my concern, and I just want to make sure it's on the record because we received these concerns, is that, as organizations like, Tarrant County, who are doing bond programs for healthcare facilities and nonprofits like churches who are building on the fringes, I want to make sure that there's a process to which they're not, disproportionately impacted by this. So, and you had mentioned waivers. You also mentioned that public charters would be treated similar to public schools. So can you clarify that for me?
Sure. So the amendment that Councilmember Crane put forward would exempt basically non-ISD schools from K through 12 from the transportation impact fees. And then a particular entity can either appeal the transportation impact fee or seek a waiver through council policy.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Bivens? Thank you, Dana. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. My hat goes off to staff for being open to negotiation. And when we were hearing all the names called, I was glad to hear DJ's name and Dana called, but Marion has been the foot soldier on the ground, making sure we all knew what we were getting into with this discussion. I want to support the idea in the spirit my council member Flores mentioned, not as a part of this amendment, but at some point, we do need that type of advisory committee, that presence here on the council for us. At one point in time, we had a 67% increase in new housing construction in Stop 6. So that's after we launched the neighborhood improvement strategy. We don't want to do anything to keep people from building. We don't have enough housing as it is citywide, statewide, nationwide. I like the idea of the compromise at 50. That works for me. I can support that. But I just want to always make sure you know that we need all voices at the table. Not everybody can join the big associations that may have big finance fees. And so when we do, and if we do this advisory committee that Carlos has come up with, I'll be lobbying for those onesie-twosie builders. Those small builders who just have been sitting on land for like 40 years, like a guy named Lester Jones did in my district. And once he saw that he could build, he did, and he's continued to do so. And so we have to have the presence of the small builder as well. And I think that's where the city can have that type of input and get that input. And so, Michael, I think we've already kind of rained on the amendment parade, but thank you for your leadership in this as well.
Councilmember Beck?
There were some things said about the potential impacts of increasing this fee, and I really want to address that because I think it's important for the public to understand that when we talk about a rate, when we use 40% or 50%, that's a percentage of the actual cost of improving the transportation needs for a particular development. So that means that when we, the city, set a rate at 50%, we are subsidizing corporations at 50%. We are telling our residents that you, in the form of your taxes or in your bond dollars, are subsidizing builders to build. And while we certainly want to make sure that we have adequate housing stock in our city, I will remind everyone here that a business gets to set their price. They get to determine how much they want their return on each home they sell. And so it could very well be passed on to a home buyer, and that would be the builder's decision to make instead of setting a price for the home that incorporates the cost of doing business. I think that this is a good start in the right direction. I think that we need to continue to look at this rate because our job is not to make corporations wealthy. Our job is to be good stewards of our citizens' tax dollars. And in doing that, we have to make sure that the true cost of business, of doing business here in Fort Worth is encumbered by those that are profiting off that business, and that we're not turning around and making sure that that our residents are paying the price for that. And so I will support this, and I look forward to working with staff to make sure that we have a more equitable system moving forward.
Councilmember Nettles?
Before we take the vote, I was just going to get Councilman Crane to restate that amendment for.
Will, when we do the motion, yeah, absolutely. Any other comments from council members? No? Okay. Again, I think we've already thanked staff, but we need to do that again. This is a really hard process, and want to reiterate that we appreciate how much time you've put in, not just with stakeholders, but with individual council members along the last few months, including yesterday. I'm sure Dana was really looking forward to the new city hall when she's not on the same floor with me. I'm not coming down constantly to bother her. So thank you to Dana. I do think today is a compromise, and there's been a lot of good things said today about that. Thank you to Travis Clegg for articulating the many things that were included here, which was a consideration for small businesses, projects that are near adjacent to a major tech dot right away, significant projects, of course, and then a more phased approach, which is, I think, what we've tried to do here. Nothing changes until June of 2023 at the 50%, then giving us a full year until June of 2024 to consider any additional incremental raises to really allow all parties consideration. And I think Councilmember Flores may have mentioned this, but he'll probably talk about it the next work session. The need for us to make sure we're including stakeholders in how we would deploy these resources and infrastructure across the city of Fort Worth. It's exciting to think about having the right amount of fund, especially for our council members in North Fort Worth that have experienced a lot of angst from community members. But now how we deploy those resources in a timely manner is really important and prudent as stewards of your tax dollars. So those are things we'll be working through in the next several months. And lastly, I will just say thank you to my council colleagues for working hard on this. These are tough topics. Many of you have been dealing with this for multiple sessions, not just this one, in consideration of the conversation. And lastly, I think this is a good thing to do for our charter schools and private schools. Really, it's about parity in the state of Texas. You cannot charge an ISD, so we're going to treat all schools the same. And thank you to Dr. Williams for asking those questions to Miriam to kind of clarify how our other nonprofits might be impacted as well. Councilmember Crane, I'll turn to you for final motion.
Yeah, I actually have a few words too. Sorry to usurp that. I wanted to say thanks again to staff for working on this, and I know this has been a project over the last number of months, but also thank you to DAC, the Real Estate Council, all the stakeholders, Greater Fort Worth Association of Realtors, builders, everybody that has an interest at least in this piece of it. This really was about balance, and right now we are as part of this, the impact fee is 30%. What would have happened is we would have doubled that to 65%. And I appreciate my colleagues saying this, that we can revisit this at a different time, but I think right now, with an affordability issue that we have, I'm the only active real estate broker that sits on this dais. So I see it on a daily basis with people trying to afford homes in the city, and they cannot do it. And the market dictates the price. And the market right now is saying the homes are very valuable here because there is a shortage supply. There was an article that came out yesterday, Dallas Morning News. Home builders are walking right away from new land deals. We've heard that today from Bloomfield about what make it. There's a $4 million housing gap in the United States right now. I think Fort Worth has a big housing gap too, and I see it on a daily basis. So I don't think it's the right time to double it. And this is a smooth approach to go 50, 55, 60, 65, and raise it from there. Mr. Potoff, I want to say thank you for your remarks and our conversation on the call today. I think some of your ideas are good, and I want you to connect again. You've got Tom Galbraith at Dunaway that's working with you, who's very respected by this dais and this body, to keep working with them, keep working with our staff on some of the ideas that you had. And I don't want it to be overlooked. We've done a lot of work outside of the home portion of this, the small business carve out. I want to thank staff about that. This has been a passion of mine, and DJ, Jennifer Roberts, DAC, I know y'all are the Development Advisory Council involved in this. Just so everybody understands it, what this will do for our small businesses, this carve out that we're going to give them is a 25% discount. These are for independently owned or nonprofit entities. They cannot be a subsidiary of a larger company nor a franchisee owning more than 5 franchises. Annual revenues have to be less than $2.5 million, 25 employees or less, and the business has to have been in operation for at least a year. So this, I think, is a great thing for our small businesses to be a part of this. To say that we are listening to you and we want those businesses to succeed and thrive here in Fort Worth. So with that, I make a motion to approve 1018 with the following amendments. 1, adopt a residential collection rate of 50% of Schedule 1 effective June 1st, again, my birthday, 2023, with annual increases of 5% percentage points up to 65%. And 2, amend City Code Charter 30, Article 8 to permit charter and private schools serving grades K through 12 to not pay transportation impact fees.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote.
It is.
Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0867.
Councilmember Nettles.
Yes, thank you. I move that the Fort Worth City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the use of the power of eminent domain to acquire .057 acres in permanent water and drainage easement and .041 acres in permanent drainage easement from real property owned by Gina McBrown. The land rights and the subject property are needed for the Trentman Street Bridge replacement and pavement rehabilitation project, a public use that will capture roadway runoff through Sag and drain into Prairie Dog Creek. I got 2 more sentences. The property will be used for permanent grading, construction, maintenance, and repairs for the Prairie Dog Creek channel on the east side of Trentman Street Bridge. The property is located at 3901 and 4001 Brookline Avenue in the Trentman City Addition, Block 7, Lots 17 and 18, City of Fort Worth, Tarrant County, Texas. This property interest to be acquired is described by meets and bounds and by survey exhibits to attach to the mayor and council communication. Thank you.
Motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0996.
Councilmember Firestone.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move to approve with a special motion from legal. I move that the Fort Worth City Council adopt the resolution authorizing use of the power of eminent domain to acquire 0.139 acres in right-of-way easement and 0.127 acres for a temporary construction easement from improved property owned by Harmon Fund LP. The property is needed to construct public roadway improvements at the northwest corner of Golden Heights Road and Harmon Road for the Golden Triangle Boulevard project, a public use that will improve safety and traffic flow along Golden Triangle Boulevard where it transitions into Harmon Road. The land rights in the subject property are for new travel lanes, storm drainage improvements, sidewalks, traffic signals, and street lights as necessary. The property is located at 2401 Golden Heights Road in Lot 1, Block 1, Harmon Senior Villas, Tarrant County, Texas. The property interests to be acquired are described by meets and bounds and depicted by survey exhibits attached to this mayor and council communication.
Thank you, Leonard. I've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0998.
Councilmember Bivens.
There it is. I move that the Fort Worth City Council adopt a resolution authorizing use of the power of eminent domain to acquire a total of 0.266 acres in permanent sewer easements and a total of 1.060 acres for temporary construction easements from improved property owned by Jerry Coryell. The property is needed for the Lake Arlington Lift Station and Force Main project, a public use that will construct public sewer improvements to increase the conveyance capacity necessary to handle the projected growth within the Village Creek wastewater basin. Yay. The property is located in the Oak Crest Addition Block 10, lots 4 through 6 in the David Strickland Survey and Shelby County School Land Survey in the city of Kennedale, Tarrant County, Texas. The property interests to be acquired are described by meets and bounds and depicted by survey exhibits attached to this mayor and council communication. Come on, second my stuff. Thank you. All right.
Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-1006.
Councilmember Bivens. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0959.
Councilmember Firestone. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0971.
Councilmember Beck. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0973.
Councilmember Firestone. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Mayor, that concludes all of the items on the agenda for today.
Thank you. Council, today we're going to close in honor of Councilmember Jim Lane. And thank you to Councilmember Flores for his wonderful tribute earlier. Councilmember Jim Lane was a trailblazer in countless ways for the city of Fort Worth. He was a fighter for many and advocated for iconic parts of our city, including the Molly logo, the cattle drive in the stockyards, the rebuilding of LaGrave Field, and bringing back the Fort Worth Cats. Many other things that made Fort Worth the city that we know today. The city of Fort Worth is indebted to Councilmember Jim Lane and his service as a community advocate and council member. Thank you all, and meeting adjourned.